Hi guys, White Warlock here. This is going to be another deck guide video on the red-blue items deck. In this video will be about the matchup against blue steel. So I'll talk about a few cards that are good or have some different uses, which you can keep in mind when you're playing against blue steel. So my first card I want to talk about is Be Prepared, and this is mostly for opponent Tamatoas, big boards, obviously, with multiple Smees or Mickey if they play Mickey, and the aerial that has board. If they play like two of them, that can be very difficult for us to deal with. Literally nothing in our deck can kill it except for the Be Prepared if it's unexerted. If it's exerted, you can probably kill it anyways, but yeah, if it's not exerted, then only Be Prepared can deal with it. Sometimes, even if you have like a Hiram or a Hiram and Maurice or something like good cards on the battlefield, it might be necessary to play the Be Prepared because they are gonna win if they can quest with it and activate Dime. Especially sometimes it's just very good because for them, because some games they can have more items than you, and then Ariel just becomes a 10 lore threat, and that becomes quite difficult to deal with. So you need to just be prepared immediately. And sometimes, yeah, that can lead to quite awkward game states, but sometimes be prepared is just necessary. Then I'll talk about Tamatoa. So in this matchup, Tamatoa, they can't really deal that well with Tamatoa. Most lists only play one, if not zero, Let It Goes. Most lists play zero Hades. Yeah, so Tamatoa is able to survive more. So sometimes you can just play it on turn 8 or when you have 8 ink. Um, but as soon as you see them running Hades or multiple Let It Goes, like in game one, for example, then you need to be more careful because you can't just lose all of them to surprise Hades, for example. But I would say that normally you should not expect playing against the Hades deck. So Tamatoa can actually be quite good with Hiram to like yeah to get a popsicle with Tamatoa, then crack it with Hiram, then get it back with Tamatoa, and so you can draw 3 cards a turn, basically, right? So don't be afraid to play Tamatoa earlies. They're pretty good. Same goes for Lucky Dime. They can't really deal with Lucky Dime that easily, but like some lists do run multiple beasts, the 5 cost, so then it becomes a little bit harder. It's not like in the red-blue matchup where you can just play it and then it will survive forever. But sometimes it's just a good play, especially if you have a Maurice, because it only costs 5 and then draws a card, right? So Maurice really, really shines in this matchup. Um, it survives a lot of things, like Tamatoa, it has a lot of defense, and especially in this matchup, knowledge about this deck is very important for you and for your opponent. If your opponent does not know what they're dealing with, um, and they underestimate Maurice, they can just lose on the spot. Then if you ever untap with Maurice, or if you've quested with it and they leave it alive, and you have enough items in your hand, then you just win the game, right? Like Maurice can be very backbreaking, and if they underestimate it, then you can just uh, win the game just from the value of Maurice alone. So yeah, you have to be lucky maybe that they underestimate your Maurice, but it's a really good card here. I would play it most times on turn 6, and then hopefully get like a fishbone quill stuff or something to play with it, or dime even. Then I'm gonna talk about Hiram and fishbone quill. Both our Hirams and their Hirams are big targets during the game, and we are much better in dealing with their Hirams than they are with ours. Um, I would say basically every time I play against Blue Steel, the Hiram survives at least 1 turn, so I can quest with it. And for their part, I would say I kill their Hiram almost all the time, so they can't quest with theirs. So that's a very big advantage we have over them, and that makes them going to more ramp focused, and we need to keep up with that. So Fishbone Quill is quite important against Blue Steel. I would say that you would definitely want to keep at least one of them in your opening hand, and try not to ink it and play it on and try to play it on turn 3, and then hopefully play a Heimer on turn 4, kill Popsicle, draw another card, fuel the Fishbone Quill. But don't go too aggressive. What I've often seen against uh, when I was playing blue steel is that my opponents went way too aggressive with Fishbone Quill because they thought I would wheel them, and then they had no cards in it, and then they just said, "I'm not gonna wheel you then, and I'm just gonna wheel. I'm gonna put my own wheel in the Fishbone Quill, and then I'm just gonna draw more cards than you." So that's a problem. However, we have way more card draw than they have. We have they do have 8 popsicles, right? But we have workshop, and workshop draws so many cards, and we can deal with Hiram way better than they can. So try to keep off a Fishbone Quill, but don't go too aggressive and don't lose your game because you have no cards in hand and they don't wheel. But if you expect them to wheel, like they have 1 card in hand, they have like 1 character on board, it's only like a Cogsworth or something, then it's pretty likely they're gonna wheel. So you need to prepare for it. Last note, even if they might wheel, it's okay to draw cards with Hiram. But sometimes you need to keep a look at it because if you want to play Tamatoa next turn, for example, if you or like you have a Lucky Dime and you only need Tamatoa to win, be careful about your item count, especially because your opponent can play cards like Aerial, and then it's quite important to have more items than them, which sometimes doesn't happen even though we play way more items than they do. So watch out for that. Then we're going to talk about Maui. So Maui is not generally thought to be a good card against this matchup, but it's actually pretty good. It's a really good card to get after they wheel you. So it's not like, like sure, it's not guaranteed that you get it and you can't really play around it. But after they wheel you and you get it, you can punish them really hard by Maui, by playing Maui. And Maui is really good against them having like triple Cogsworth or double Cogsworth, and then they start questing and you can kill one with you can kill something with Maui, or maybe you need another character kill something with Maui and that character, and then you can like keep the Maui on board. Maui stays on board quite often, um, and if they spend their turn like killing it, that often takes them either 2 spells or a Zeus, or a character and another spell, and that's okay for us. Um, that's a worthy trade. So you can try to keep it in your hand, but it's okay as an ink on turn 1 or a little bit later. Now I'm going to talk about the removal package and how important it is for us to have it. So our opponents in Blue Steel also win with Tamatoa, but not always. Obviously, they can win with Aerial, which we can't really stop, or with cards like Bell and Dime. But they win most often with Dime and their targets. And our removal package is really good against every card except for Aerial. That's fine. We can't really include cards that are good versus Aerial per se. Um, it's just that there isn't really much in the game for against Ward right now. And we're not going to play cards like Beaking Undisputed because we don't really have that early game pressure to deal with their Mickeys or with Mr. Smees. And if they stay alive, then they're just going to sacrifice those cards to Beaking Undisputed or Tremaine. So we can't really afford to run those. So our removal is more single target or C2 and B variant, and those can't hit the aerial, but they can hit basically everything else. Big Sisu can deal very well with Cogsworth. Now a good blue steel player would ink their Cogsworth almost every time, but if you're playing against a less experienced blue steel player, then your Sisu can deal real damage, and you you want to keep like one or like double ice block or a fang crossbow plus ice block or just a fang crossbow in general against them in the late game. So try not to kill them with Hiram too much because you want to keep these for if they play their Tamatoa. Again, fang crossbow is plus Medusa is enough to kill a Tamatoa. Fang crossbow plus Ice Block is enough to kill them with Sisu, Big Sisu or Brawl, and Fang Crossbow plus double Ice Block is enough to kill them with small Sisu. Obviously, double Ice Block plus Medusa is the same, or like triple Ice Block plus Big Sisu or Brawl. But you get the point. So look for those like combos. Obviously, these items are good anyways, especially the Fang Crossbow against Dragon decks, but obviously they don't run any dragons. But try to keep at least the ice blocks in play, and you can use the Fang Crossbow for ink, but later in the game you might just want to keep it on the battlefield, or you could get them in the discard and then get them back from Tematoa, but rather you want to keep these on the battlefield so that you have the immediate answers to Tematoa, and how more the more answers you have to their Tematoa, the safer you are in the late game, so you can ramp up and find your own win condition. All right, that's the matchup guide for Blue Steel. I would say against people who don't know this deck, it is generally pretty easy because they open up themselves a lot against your tricks and do not expect cards like Maurice and like yeah they're like if you play Maleficent Dragon, they don't really play around they don't really they can't really afford to play around that, so that's also a good answer, but they would expect that more than just throwing a Maurice down on turn 6. And again, they're not really that if they don't really know the deck, they're not really prepared for the amazing turns you can have with multiple queen activations um, or multiple Maurice workshops, so you can really get an advantage there. If you're playing against a seasoned veteran who has played against this deck multiple times, then it gets a little bit harder, but I would say you're still generally favored. I hope you guys enjoyed this deck guide. This is the last one of the big four. The other three are already on the channel at the time of this recording. Um, this will probably be the last deck guide until the posted until the a challenge in Bochum, which will be in this weekend at the time of this recording. So it will be um, until the 7th of July. After which I might upload more, depending on how much I played against other matchups, or like surprises or big decks that came from those tournaments. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you later.